Thank you for joining us on the fourth of the series on the new horse owners. We've been talking in 3 series previously about aspects of buying the horse for the new horse owner. Today, we're on the last. We're on a time to sell, and so we've got a lot to talk about in that avenue. If you've been following along the first series we talked about all about what it costs to own a horse or cost to buy a horse. Series 2 was all about the cost of ownership. A lot of times we get confused that the purchase price may be the most expensive thing, but it's actually not. It's the perpetual cost of ownership that can be very expensive. Series 3, we talked about riding the horse, what it takes, what we need equipment-wise, goals and objectives, and so on. And today we're all about thinking about the proof of ownership and paperwork, and then how to move forward into selling the horse. So again, to remind you, we've got a lot of other things out there for you to view on Taking the Reins Mississippi State YouTube channel, along with Taking the Reins with Clay Cavender podcast, and Instagram, Facebook. All those things are out there to kind of connect with us and see some free ways to gain more education if you're interested. Today for objectives, our objectives for Series 4 is to, one, identify various avenues to sell a horse. If we're going to sell horses, we need to know the positives and the negatives to each avenue and ways we can sell. And number 2, we got to have paperwork. And so understanding paperwork associated with the sale of a horse, what I need to have in order to get that done appropriately, are things we're going to discuss and are our objectives for today. Well, you may be thinking that I don't want to sell my horse, and I get that, but life gets in the way sometimes and things happen, so you may be forced with having to sell the horse or needing to sell the horse. So we want to give you different ways and avenues that will be advantageous for you. There's different ways here. We're going to talk about auctions. There's live and online auctions, private treaties, which are basically one-on-one, or we have someone who's an intermediary for us to sell the horse. And then we can even use social media, Facebook pages, and so on. With an auction, we used to just have live auctions. Everybody went to a live auction on a Saturday and they sat and listened and watched the horses go through the auction. But today we have the opportunity to view horses and to purchase horses and to sell horses online. In 2020, when COVID hit, it forced our hand here at MSU to start pushing our horses to an online auction, and I was pretty negative about that in the beginning. But through the past 4 or 5 years that we've had to do that, I realized there's so many advantages to that, and that it's actually done more benefit for us than it has harm. So I think that online auctions can be a great avenue for you to not only buy a horse but sell horses as well. So we'll talk about each one of those in terms of what the positives and negatives may be. On an online auction, there's some good things here. We can view pictures and videos for days leading to the sale. These horses don't sell immediately. The bidding usually starts 48 hours or more away from the time of final sale. And so we have a lot of time where we can view, contemplate, think about the horse that's being sold or up for bid. If we're selling the horse, we can set a reserve, which is a minimum price I would like to have for the horse. So he won't sell unless the bids hit that mark. So that gives us some security in selling a horse. And it's not an exact science in terms of the time, starts, bidding opens at a certain point, and at the end of that time, 48 hours or so, the sale is not cut off if bidding continues. So a lot of times towards the end of these time periods, this sale will reset for a 2-minute, 3-minute time period if a bidder hits in that last couple minutes. So this is a good thing. If the bidding starts to kind of formulate towards the late end of the sale, this gives the person selling the horse an opportunity to acquire the highest bid, which is good. We can do things with an online auction just like we do live auctions. We can request x-rays to be done. Higher end online auctions are going to request that x-rays be sent in from a veterinarian for certain horses, especially if they're in a premium auction. And there's going to be instructions in place for after the horse sells as far as time period to pick up the horse. These online auctions also have a lot of times have a list of haulers that can be used for the sale. So that's not too hard of a process. And if we are going to sell the horse, we have to have the same items in place for an online auction as we do a live auction. We'll talk about what that paperwork is and the things that we need to be prepared for as we move along. Here's those things depending on the online auction service that you're using. They're all a little bit different, but here are the main things that they're going to require that you have if you're going to sell your horse. You're going to have a health certificate. The horse is going to be transported more than likely to a different state, at least a different location, so a health certificate is going to be required. Some are requiring a vet report, which is a more detailed health verification than just a simple health certificate. You're going to have, if this is a registered horse, you're going to have proof of ownership, which is going to be your name and proof of ownership through a breed association registry. So the papers for the horse, kind of like having the title for a car, you're going to have that. This is the biggest one probably that with with a private treaty, sometimes it doesn't happen, and that is a signed transfer. If the horse is registered with an association, the auction and a smart seller will have already in place for the buyer a signed transfer, which is simply a form. I'll show you here in just a minute what it looks like. We can print the form off, fill in the specifics of the horse, sign it as the owner, the person selling the horse currently, and so that the new buyer can take that paperwork, send it in to the breed association, and get the breed association papers transferred into the new owner's name. So a signed transfer is typically required. A negative Coggins, obviously, anytime we're dealing with horses, that most every state's going to require a negative Coggins on file. Here's the good and the bad for the buyer. In a live auction, if I'm a buyer, the positives to this is that there's numerous horses that I can choose from. And we can go as far in a live auction to finding auctions that are discipline specific. So if I'm a roper, I can go to an auction that caters specifically to cattle event, roping, those types of horses. And so I can see a big pool of horses that do the exact thing that I want. So I have a lot of options with that. The negative part of a live auction is that it can get quick paced. That is the idea behind an auction and having an auctioneer, is that the auctioneer kind of keeps things moving. We're selling horses and items in a quick pace and getting people excited. So that can kind of be a negative in terms of a buyer, because I can start raising my hand, or I can get really excited, and potentially the action-packed excitement of the auction can push me into a price point that maybe I'm not comfortable with. And so can definitely be a negative with a live auction. And I may not have much research time. I may show up a day ahead of time or the day of the sale and kind of look through the paperwork and see what I like and go from there. So it could be more of an impulse buy instead of a researched, thought out process. With an online auction, the positive is that I have no cost to observe or shop. I can get online and look at horses all day for that auction and not have any cost investment in at that time. The negatives, I don't get to personally see the horses. Me personally, I would rather see the horse up close, put my hands on the horse, talk to the owner, get a feel for what's going on. The online auction, geography it could be worked both ways. It could be a positive and a negative. You got a big pool of horses to choose from, but the negative is you may have to have the horse shipped from California or wherever the horse resides. And like I said, I like to have that relationship, personal meeting with the owner to see what I'm getting here. If you're the seller, the good and the bad of a live auction is, again, the positive things are this discipline specific, and probably the biggest thing is that if I am trying to move horses or I need the money from the sale of a horse, I can sell a horse quickly. I know that the horse can get sold on this specific day, so that could be a real positive thing for me as the seller. And I have a large market typically in a live auction. Depending on where I'm at, I could have a large market. Negative things, it could be ordering the sale. Man, that's a big one. If I'm the first horse in a 150 horse sale, if I'm the first one of the day, that could be a real big negative, because it's early in the day. Maybe bidders aren't hot yet. They're not warmed up. Maybe people are saving their money or saving their bidding till later in the sale. So if you get randomly put into bid number one, that's a tough place to be, as is the last. So if it's the last one and it's midnight when the last horse goes through the sale, that could be obviously a negative thing for you, the seller. There are associated costs that are always a negative. If you're gonna sell through an auction, you're gonna pay a service, and you're gonna pay basically an entry fee. and then you're going to pay a percentage of what the horse sells for in typical auctions. An online auction, the positive thing, again, no expense to travel if you're the seller. I can do it quickly, again, a large market, but I have the same negative things in terms of associated costs. Now, this is one I put on here that I think is a negative thing for a seller because you may not have the tools in which to get it done. That's the professional video and photos. Typically, the more professional videos, more professional photos you have that put your horse in a positive light is going to attract bidders to your horse, just like anything else. So the quality of videos and photos is something that you kind of have to develop, you kind of have to have an eye for, and you kind of learn in no other way than through experience. So that's something that personally we do here is we put horses in sales every year. And as I put out the videos and the photos for our horses, I go online and I watch what other horses are selling for. And I look at some of those top end horses and I look at their photos and their videos and think about how maybe my videos could change or be altered in order to next year be even better. Or it just gives me confidence that what we're doing is the right thing. If I'm gonna sell a horse private treaty, that's a personal sale, and there's some good things here that we'll talk about in terms of positives here. But the question I get asked a lot of times is, can the asking price be negotiated? And the answer is absolutely. Anytime we're selling anything, we can negotiate the price. This is a tricky thing though, because I don't want to lowball the horse owner so much that it offends them, but also I'm looking to get the best price I can. So all they can say is no, and then you can continue to negotiate if you're interested. I get this question a lot, can I take cash or check or give cash or check? And that's up to the parties, what they're comfortable with. Me personally, cash is king. I think most people want to sell things for cash for obvious reasons, but if you've got cash, that can actually be worked into the negotiation price too. You may be able to negotiate a lower price based on whether or not you're paying with a check or with cash. So that's something to consider as you move forward. Do I need a bill of sale? If I'm the seller, I want to create my own bill of sale to kind of tie the two parties together so that we all know what the price is, the horse is, anything that's been discussed. I've got it kind of all detailed out. I'll give you an example here later on of what a bill of sale may look like if you're interested in looking at that. Do I privately sell? And that is, again, up to you, but the positives, negatives here. The positive is there's no cost involved. It's like selling a house by owner. You don't have to pay someone to come in and do the bargaining for you, the marketing for you. If you're comfortable with that, then you have no costs involved. You are responsible for the negotiation, which to me is a positive. If you're not good with that or feel comfortable with that, it could be a negative, I guess. And the big negative of the private sale is that it may take time. It may take, depending on who you are and what your networking relationships are, it may take a month or two before you find the right buyer and get your horse sold to the right place. Here's what a transfer report looks like. And this is what I want to have all filled out and make sure that I've got all these areas filled in, description of the horse, my name, all that kind of stuff. And then it's going to be sent to the breed association. They're going to take that along with the papers for the horse. They're going to look at the two, put two and two together, and then reissue papers to the new owner so that when you get the papers back as the new owner, it's got your name as owner of that particular horse. So we want to make sure that we get this filled out if we're going to sell the horse so we don't have any delayed times. Here's an example of a bill of sale that I put together, and it's just going to give the description of what's happening. And what I use this for a lot of times is if I'm selling a horse and someone comes out and they ride the horse, they talk to me about the horse, they negotiate price. They may not have money on them at that exact moment, and they may not have their trailer with them or whatever it may be. And so what I do is if we get to an agreement at that point, this helps me with just kind of a paperwork trail that if they come back in a day or two to actually pay for the horse, pick the horse up, it has everything that we agreed to. Purchase price, what the health restrictions or problems are, if there are any, I may require a security deposit, a percentage down or something to hold the horse for an extended period of time or whatever that may be. But this just kind of links the buyer and the seller together so that we're all on the same page and there's no discrepancies when the actual price gets paid. We'll get a lot of questions about buyer beware. Depending on the state you live in, you could be living in a buyer beware state. And what that means is that the buyer is the one that's responsible for asking certain questions that require the seller to disclose issues. So what I mean by that is that you should ask questions. Some states, if you're dealing with a reputable person, you probably won't have this issue. But if you're dealing with someone that's questionable in terms of ethics, they may have a horse that's, let's just use an example of a horse that might be lameness prone. They've had a reoccurring injury over a number of years. Today that you look at the horse, he's completely sound, everything's great, and you love him and you buy him and you never ask the question, has the horse ever been lame? Buyer beware means that the current seller does not have to disclose that information to you as the new buyer. Now, if the buyer asks the question, then the seller is required to disclose the information about the lameness or soundness issues of the horse. So that's just one example. So I would have questions in place as someone who's going to be buying. And if I'm selling a horse, I would just have my answers prepared for whatever issue the horse may have. If he has been he's prone to colic when it storms, I would just make sure I said that, that, hey, this horse is anxiety prone when storm comes through. So you really might want to keep an eye on him because he has colic in the past and everything's been fine. He's recovered with no problems, but you should be aware of that. Those are things I think that the seller should disclose to the potential owner so that they're completely comfortable with what's going on. I would like to see, if I'm the buyer, I want to see the horse in its natural state. Now, you as the seller, I think you have a responsibility here. A lot is said to a potential buyer by the way you keep your stalls clean, the way the barn is picked up and maintained, other horses are clean, the horse you're trying to sell is clean and maintained. I think that goes a long way. You don't have to live in a mansion by any means, but just that things are clean and tidy and put together are going to show that, are going to make the new current potential buyer more comfortable with what you're about to do. You do have the right, or the buyer has the right to a pre-purchase exam, and that is at the buyer's expense. So the seller could be asked, hey, I'm really interested in buying your horse. I will feel most comfortable with having a veterinarian come out and do a pre-purchase exam, and that will be the potential buyer's expense. Now, the seller and the buyer should both be aware of the fact that I've never seen a pre-purchase exam completely clean. Never seen that. Maybe it's been done. I'm just not experienced with it. It seems like every horse I've ever been involved with, there's something. And so to me, it's obviously it's not a pass-fail. That is not the standard for a pre-purchase exam. You're just buying the veterinarian's opinion about the status of the horse that you're purchasing. Now, you can get as intense as you want. Obviously, the more depth of discovery you do, it's going to cost you more. And if you get to a point, let's say you spend $500 to do a pre-purchase exam and the vet says, there's a lot of issues here, you got this issue, you got that problem, and whatever it may be, and you don't feel comfortable buying the horse, you're still out the $500 for the pre-purchase exam. So that is the buyer's expense. So both parties should be aware that every experience I've had, you're going to have a veterinarian tell you that there's some issue, whether it's minor or major, with the horse. Now the seller has to the buyer has to come to a point that they feel comfortable. Scams exist. Sure, yeah, numerous scams out there. When you sell anything, especially when you're advertising it on the internet today, there's so many different scams out there. So here's some things to be thinking about. I would not buy the horse sight unseen unless I'm buying from a reputable online auction service. That's different. I may not need to see the horse then. I may feel comfortable with videos. But if I'm buying, especially in a private treaty situation, I'm not buying the horse sight unseen. And I'm not saying you can't do that, But me personally, I want to see, for reasons just stated, I want to see the horse in his natural environment. I want to see where the owner lives. I want to see what kind of health any other horses are in, how they've been treated, just so I kind of get a feeling for who I'm dealing with. I can also use a reputable trainer, and that could get me a long ways. Again, there's going to be fees associated with that, because what you're paying for is you are paying for a reputable trainer's professional, experienced opinion, and you're paying for his resources and time. So there's going to be an expense associated with using a reputable trainer, but you can eliminate some scam options out there just by doing that. And then again, ask around. So many people use Facebook in order to find things out. This is another way that you can find out who the people are that are selling the horse, and find out how good you feel about dealing with them. If anyone asks for you to give a deposit before you see the horse, I would run. Those are red flags. Things that look funky or don't look settling that are being asked of you, I would run, because they're red flags. A typical person that sells horses is going to invite you to their place, ask you to come, let you come see the horse, and then help you to feel comfortable with the purchase you're making, especially if you're spending a lot of money. Here's some questions I threw up here. What questions should I ask when buying? I would say have the information, the age, the breed, registry, temperament, show record. All those are great questions to ask. Who trained and who showed the horse could give you some ideas of who you're dealing with as well. And then again, like I said before, any past medical issues dealing with lameness, surgeries, colic situations, you can get as detailed as you want with that, and you should get the answers that you want. So just some ideas for when you're buying a horse. If you're selling, I would be prepared for those questions as well. And then last but not least here is, when is the sale legally complete? And the legal answer to that is when money changes hands, whether that's check or cash. It's when money changes hands, legally the sale is done. However, if you're dealing with someone who's reputable, they're going to want you to be happy with the purchase. So it doesn't mean that if you get home and have buyer's remorse the next day and you call them with a sad story that, hey, I don't want the horse anymore, it doesn't mean they'll take it back. They might, but it doesn't mean they have to. What I mean by this is, if something comes up with a horse and it's just not the right fit, and it's a typical problem, a reputable trainer might bring the horse back and try to resell it for you at no charge, or take the horse back and help you find the right horse in their barn that works for you, or something along those lines. As long as it's within certain standards. If you just don't want the horse anymore after 30 days and tell the trainer to take it back, probably not going to happen. Legally, you don't have a foot to stand on when money changes hands, because now that's your horse. I hope that those things help you with a potential sale of your horse, or if you're going out to buy a horse, again, it gives you some affirmation of what questions you should be asking, how things should go. I'd love for you to take this survey. Please, all you got to do is open your camera on your phone, point it towards that QR code. It'll take you directly to a link that gives you quick 5 questions is all it's on there, I think, and asks you about information that's presented today. I personally would like to know if you've got any other concerns, ideas, or interest in learning more. Please email me at clay.cavender@msstate.edu, and I'd be happy to answer your emails. Thank you.